Hello and welcome to Coffee Lovers TV. On the show today, we're going to be taking a look at another Port of Mokha coffee. This one from Al-Durrar. I'm not going to dive too much into Port of Mokha in this video. I've done plenty of other videos on that. If you want to hear the story of how it all came to be, check out this book. I'll link to it below. The Monk of Mokha. In this video, I really just want to dive into the coffee. So this is March's coffee. They have a monthly coffee subscription going on, which of course I'll link below as well. It's a really great experience of Yemen coffees. I highly recommend it. I'll link to the al-jabal video below as well. That was the first month of February. This is March. So let's get into it. All the coffees come in this really nice packaging. You get 5 ounces, I believe it is. It's actually not labeled on the package, but the information is on. It's plenty of coffee to make multiple brews with and have several cups. So you can really dive in and explore the coffee. You can have it all with one brewing method. You can try multiples. I've been doing this on the V60. Today I'm going to be brewing on the Kalita Wave because I feel like it. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to share with you the description of this coffee here, and they give you a nice picture. I assume this is the farm. This is the farm where this coffee has grown. Let's see if that's gonna... March 2018. Our March offering from the Al-Durrar region expresses some of the best qualities of Al-Durrar. Exotic, bright, and fruity, with subtleties in its sweet notes that need to be experienced to understand. This month, we're offering a single farmer lot from one of our most consistent farming partners in Al-Durrar, Idris. Each harvest, the team at Port of Mokha eagerly anticipates samples from Idris and what he and his family have to offer. This year, his lots burst with sweet, bright raspberry notes and contain hints of oolong tea, all wrapped in a silky, creamy body. Idris shows us year after year the incredible complexity Yemeni coffees have come to be known by and the vast spectrum of flavor the Udani varietal has to offer. A little bit more information here. The farmer Idris, as we know, the elevation 2150 meters above sea level. It's very high. Cultivar Udani. Processed sun-dried natural, as are all coffees in Yemen. Tasting notes: oolong tea, raspberry acidity, and a creamy body. The origin of Saan'a, Yemen, the province Al-Durrar. So I'm going to have a smell, take in the aroma, and then brew it up on the Kalita Wave and come back and taste it. It's like deep, rich sweetness and brightness as well. I always have a hard time describing Yemen coffees as compared to others because there's something extra rich and dense and complex about the flavors and the aromas. Like I can get tea, and then it goes into fruit, and then it goes into rich sugar. There's a lot of freshness too, like, I don't know, plant-like freshness. There's a brightness that definitely makes me think of raspberries. Like it's funny, I kind of want to say it smells like raspberry soda, just because the brightness is kind of sparkling in the way that the aroma is. Gosh, it's hard to communicate what that's like. All right, that's really quite nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and brew this up. Like I said, I'm gonna do it on the Kalita Wave, and we'll come back and have a taste and smell the brewed aroma as well, of course. So just to give you a hint of the ground aroma, which is always very much more powerful than just the whole bean aroma. So after grinding, I take a smell, and it smelled very strongly of like spiced fruit and baked sugar. So it's making me think of baklava, but with like spiced fruit in there as well. Just an interesting combination. And then as I started to bloom, I got a lot of that sort of raspberry soda again. Oh, that spice is back. I was going to talk about the aroma while brewing, but now I'm smelling this. I don't even know how to describe, like, sugary, very, very rich sugary spice. Sugar and spice. Like sugar. Very sugary fruit. Like dates, I guess. Like lots of dates and spice on this aroma. There's a floral component as well. They talk on the taste here of oolong tea. I mean, I've had oolong tea before, but I don't have it enough that I can really conjure up what that's like in my head. There's definitely a tea-like experience to the taste, so I'm just going to stick with that as my explanation. I really like the rich sugar spice sweetness to the aroma. The raspberry part of this is, it's not exactly like, sometimes coffees will be really fruity, like really fruity and be like you're eating the fruit. This one's not quite like that, but it's very obviously raspberry. I mean, that's where the tea comes in. It's like raspberry tea in the way that the raspberry tastes. And then there's a bunch of sugar and the richness that you'd expect in coffee. So this doesn't come off as light like tea does. So it's not like raspberry tea, but it's like part of it is raspberry tea, if that makes any sense. There's a little bit of spice in there too. I mean, the spice is definitely way stronger in the aroma. But I'm getting it. Like little sort of cinnamon nutmeg on the back of the tongue. It's not, this isn't a coffee that like screams out really strongly in certain flavors. Kind of like last month how the Al-Durrar had a lot of subtlety to it. It was really strong and rich, but subtle. This has stronger flavors, like the raspberry is stands out much more than any fruit did on the last one. But it also has that sort of rich, sweet base that I really like in a Yemen. Surely owing to the higher sugar density that the fruit and the fruit has naturally, just because of the way it's grown and the varieties. I think the sort of rich sweetness of these coffees makes it really easy to just sit back and enjoy, because I can taste the raspberry and the sweet and a little bit of spice, and I can just enjoy it for that. I have a feeling though that something's going to open up a bit when it cools down, so I might wait here a few moments and let it cool down and then see what we see. So that creamy body that they're describing in the tasting notes makes me think a lot of like sugary pastry. Like I mentioned, the baklava that I smelled. Yeah, the baklava that I smelled on the on the ground aroma. Is that right? Yeah, it was the spiced fruit and sort of this sugar pastry baklava-like smell. And it's not overpowering the taste. I mean, it's pretty much like if you took a coffee and just added a little bit of sugar to it. That actually mellows out as it cools. I get more of the tea. There's probably a little bit of floral in there. So I think definitely worth noting, this is noted as the same cultivar, the same variety as last month's. I think that's what they're getting at with experiencing the vast spectrum of flavor that Udani has to offer, because this tastes like a completely different coffee than last month. I mean, maybe that sort of base of sweetness is the connection, but otherwise it's just completely different. Much more noticeable fruit in this, and definitely tastes more like a natural processed coffee than the Al-Durrar did. I think it has that very distinct fruit element to it, the dried fruit element. Because when you do dry the coffee naturally, you just leave the cherries out and let them dry like raisin on the bean to a certain point. I don't know what that point is for these coffees, but then you manually separate the fruit from the pit, and then I think there's another drying and then another manual separation of the layers outside of the pit. But I'm speaking from not personal experience, but from what I've seen and heard. This becomes quite smooth when it cools. I would almost expect for like a bright acidic coffee, or a coffee with a lot of bright acidity, that has tea-like characteristics, to, as it cools, that brightness kind of pops out more, and then maybe there's a bit of sharpness. But this has real interesting smooth characteristic to it. The raspberry really does stick out in the end, though. Here's a wild idea. I'm going to take the rest of this and I'm going to chill it really quick. Now, normally I do this exactly after brewing, but this sounds like fun. Why not? I just want to cool it off all the way and then see what we see. So I'm going to let this sit for a minute or two, and then we'll come back and try the rest. Okay, let's see what iced Yemen is like. That's interesting. It's very, very smooth and subtle with sweetness and then raspberry at the end. I'm wondering were I to intentionally, oh, there's some spice in there too. It kind of popped out of nowhere. If I were to intentionally do this as an iced coffee using specifically the cold wave, which chills this without diluting the coffee. If I were to do that with that in mind, I might brew a little more concentrated. If I'm not mistaken about the flavor of oolong, I think the oolong is coming out much more. There's this like floral component that kind of came in and out when it was hot, but it's really, really popping out now. Like there's sweetness and then floral, and then the raspberry, and then there's something else. I feel like there's a whole bunch of complexity that just came out from chilling this. There's like a lime acidity to it as well that's starting to show up. I guess that may be just part of the raspberry, but like a sort of higher edge to the brightness of that. Wow, that's ridiculously smooth when it's cold. There's zero bitterness to this at all. You would think I just made some kind of weird fruit juice concoction. All right, well, that has been the March offering, the Al-Durrar from Port of Mokha, lovely Yemen coffee. And I'll put all the relevant links below as usual. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.